And this one, I guess this topic actually got inspired by a conversation I was having in the comment section, and I can't remember what we was talking about, but we got on the topic with Kyrie Irving, and I think the guy said he's not a superstar, and I was like, really, Kyrie Irving's not a superstar? And he started giving me all these reasons why Kyrie Irving's not a superstar, right? And he meets my criteria of a superstar, right? He really does, right? And my criteria of a superstar is, first of all, you got to have obvious superstar talent, right? So you can, I mean, the eye test is easy. You can look at a guy and be like, no, he different. Like when you set yourself apart, right? If you're an all-star every year and I 12 guys on each east and west side, 24 all-stars, but out of those all-stars, there are about 10 or 12 of them that set themselves apart. These are the superstars. These are the guys who carry franchises. So my definition of a superstar talent, and you have proven that you can carry a franchise successfully as the number one option, right? So if you got superstar talent, elite talent, set yourself apart, and you have proven that you can carry a team and a franchise successfully, and we'll talk about what successfully mean, then I'll consider you a superstar. Now, successful to me is when you're the number one, is this team winning ball games in the regular season? Is this team a playoff team? And is this team at least making a playoff run? Can you get out of the first round? Can you get out of the second round, right? Making the playoffs is successful. Losing in the first round, okay, cool. You know, I mean, it happens, right? But if your team is winning ball games, they're performing well under your lead, under your leadership, under your reign as the number one, and you're making the playoffs and you're doing it consistently, then you meet my criteria, right? Now, are there exceptions to the rule where someone is not a number one, like Scottie Pippen, right? Scottie Pippen was a number two most of his years. Can you be a co-star in a number two? And we think that you can carry a team as a number one, but you haven't proven it, right? That happens sometime. Like if Kobe never got away from Shaq, would we have gave Kobe superstar status if he never proved that he can do it as a number one? He probably would be an exception. I think Pippen is an exception. I think John Stockton is an exception. Like John Stockton was a number two his whole career behind Malone. But do we think that he could have did what J Kidd did and carried a team as a number one? Maybe, so we make exceptions for guys like that. Okay, we'll call John Stockton a superstar, even though he didn't prove to us that he was a superstar. So that happens, right? But in Stockton's case, he never got a chance to prove to us that he can carry a team as a number one successfully. But in Pippen's case, he did. Jordan retired. Pippen had 1 year. He was in the MVP discussion. He got to the second round of the playoffs, and they lost to the Knicks in 6 or 7, right? Then the next year, they had a horrible season, right? And Jordan had to come out of retirement and save them and go on a run right before the playoffs so they can get in the playoffs. So they had a horrible season. They was probably about to miss the playoffs that second season. So that probably would have kind of damaged Pippen. But based on what my criteria is, I give him credit. Pippen's a superstar. So that leads us to Kyrie Irving. Now I put a poll up. Some of y'all took the poll, and I just asked simply, is Kyrie Irving a superstar? 86% of y'all, after almost 4,000 votes, said yes, and then there was 14% of y'all that said no. Some of the reasons why people said no was interesting. This guy said, hell no, Kyrie is not a superstar. He's way overrated. That word overrated is interesting to me because that means that you're rated somewhere, but you're rated too high. And I like to know where Kyrie is rated at, because last I checked, he didn't even make top 75 player of all time. So You mean to tell me he's not one of the greatest 75 players, but he's still overrated? That's interesting. Or last I checked on like a Bleacher Report top 100 current, I don't think he was that high either. So I think before you use the word overrated, you got to know what this player is rated at. All right, that's important. And then he said superstars actually show up in the finals. Superstars are invited to the Olympics. He's an overrated diva that hit one shot and hasn't done anything since. He's a one-shot wonder, right? Now, the people who really speak like this, he's a one-hit wonder, he's a diva and all this stuff, that's screaming personal. The difference between the critique I gave with the Warriors and Steph Curry is I never got personal and took jabs and took shots at Steph Curry and said he wasn't a superstar, he doesn't deserve this, and called him a diva and all this. I didn't do all that, right? So that's how you know it's not personal for me. But when you start name calling someone, it's a little personal. And most of the times when this happened, it's a LeBron James fan who, for some reason, dislike Kyrie Irving. And for the sake of LeBron's legacy, they need the narrative of Kyrie not being a superstar because they need that narrative that LeBron could carry anybody to the finals. And they don't need no one saying that Kyrie Irving was this great player, right? They need for LeBron to have that part of his legacy stay whatever everybody believe it is. He carried bombs to the finals and whatever the case may be, right? So they need that. But he said that superstars show up in the finals. Did y'all not see Kyrie Irving play against the Warriors in the finals? Wasn't he the guy that hit the shot? Wasn't he the guy scoring 40 points with LeBron? Wasn't he the guy that was unstoppable? Right? Like, I think that's funny. I guess he's talking about this year's final with Luka. That's interesting. So forget everything that he did in the playoffs and in the regular season and then last year. His finals wasn't all that good, so he's not a superstar. So I asked him, I said, hey, well, look, you know LeBron had a horrible finals against Dallas, right? So what does that mean? If your definition is if superstars show up in the finals, and if you ever don't show up in the finals, you're not a superstar. I was like, hey, was LeBron a superstar? He had the nerve to say, oh, well, nah, LeBron wasn't a superstar in 2011. Trying to keep the lie alive, right? So anyway, that was dumb, right? so down toward the bottom, he said he wasn't a superstar in 2011. This is 2024 Princess, right? He has 4 championships, 4 finals MVP since that moment. Kyrie has been to 3 finals in Cleveland. He knew what to expect, and he choked this year. He's not a superstar. Kyrie is overrated role player. A role player. Yikes. Not even an all-star, role player at this point in his career. If he goes out there this year, balls out for the Mavs, and wins the championship, then he can redeem himself and regain his status. Okay, that's funny, right? So let's look at this role player, right? And I think someone said something about if you've never been in the MVP discussion, how can you be a superstar? If you never led a team, how can you be a superstar? And I'm like, you do know Kyrie Irving led Boston, right? This is his first year in Boston. If you look at the top left, this is official. We know the MVP is sponsored by Kia. So this is NBA.com's official page and the Kia MVP ladder. And this is in November when this was published. Remember, Kyrie Irving played about 60 games for Boston before he had to have knee surgery, right? He played about 60 games. And then he went down after the All-Star game, right? All-Star break. He got a knee surgery, right? But 60 games. And this is him being in the MVP discussion. They had him number 2 behind Harden on the ladder, right? They started the season off. Remember, they played Cleveland first game. In the first quarter, his co-star that they brought over there, who's Gordon Hayward, bought from Utah, went up for an alley-oop and almost tore his daggone leg off. His leg was just broken in so many different places, right? So he loses his co-star in game 1. They lose game 1 by 3 points. Then they lose game 2, so they're 0-2, and then they win 16 straight games. How many games is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 straight games, and 18 out of 20. Right? Kyrie Irving his leadership is working phenomenal. His second best player is a second-year player, and Jaylen Brown. Third best player is a rookie, 19-year-old Jason Tatum. Right? Read the article. His MVP case: no Haywood, no Horford. He didn't have Horford or Haywood at the beginning of the season. Just a rookie and a second-year player. No Al Horford, no Gordon Haywood. No problem for the Celtics. New resident superstar. Oh, superstar. I like that word. New resident superstar Irving guiding his crew to their 10th consecutive win over Los Angeles. All right. Man, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. He was in the MVP discussion very early on. Very early on. And he stayed in the discussion, and Boston kept winning ball games, and they was like number 1 or 2 in the East. I don't know what they were in the whole NBA, but they was rocking and rolling, and then he had the surgery. After he had the surgery, Boston, that goes to that narrative, oh, Boston did better without him. Boston was 9-7 without Kyrie Irving after he had the surgery. That was 9-7. 2 games above 500. And then they go into the playoffs, and then they have that historic run. They got them to the conference finals in the game 7 against Cleveland, right? But there wasn't a lot of contenders in the East, right? So, but they get to the conference finals, and they had a good year. The next year, they had another good year, except they didn't get to the conference finals. They got to the second round. So instead of getting to the third round, they got to the second round. They swept somebody in the first round, and they lost in the second round. Cool. And then Kyrie Irving leaves. So the whole idea that he's never led a team to success, being the number 1, is false. He led Boston to success. A very good leader. What he was doing, first time being a leader on that level. And he had some stuff that he had to figure out with those young guys, because if you let Jason Tatum explain to you what happened with that Boston team, he said it had nothing to do with Kyrie Irving. It wasn't his fault, right? And you don't have to believe me. You can just listen to Jason Tatum talk about it.
I want to follow up on that second year, that 2018-2019 team, because there's a lot of speculation about that season, about that locker room. And you just said, I think, something to the effect of, we couldn't figure out. Why do you think that is? Why could that team never fully gel into what it could have been?
It was a combination of, Kyrie and Gordon coming back, and, they were, obviously we know what Kai's capable of, but, Gordon was coming off an All-Star the year before, and was and still is, a very, very good player. But then you have myself and JB and Terry that, naturally we wanted more. We were young, and, we knew what we just, accomplished and how close we got. We wanted more. We wanted to be, the guys. And everybody was, I think, a little, resistant of, instead of we're all playing for the same goal. We're all going to get paid. We're all going to be all-stars or whatever. And I think life would just be better if we all win, if we win a championship. And I think everybody played a part in that. I know I did, for sure. As bad as I wanted to win, I wanted to be, all right, we all knew Kyle was the best player, but I wanted to be number 2. And I take responsibility for, some of those things. But just looking back on it, especially, the Warriors not even being full strength in the championship, of you can't help but think that could have been us.
So you heard Jason Tatum explain it had nothing to do with Kyrie Irving why that team didn't work. And the media was lying to everyone, and people perpetuate those lies because they said Kyrie was a bad leader. And Kyrie called LeBron and was like, I see what you mean. Now I apologize to you for being a knucklehead. What was going on with Boston? And Gordon Hayward just recently this year got on the podcast and explained the same thing that Jason Tatum explained. What really happened is that everyone knew Kyrie Irving was the number one. Everyone knew Kyrie was the best player. Everybody knew Kyrie was the leader. But Gordon Hayward was paid and brought over as a free agent to be his number two. They had a rookie Tatum, and they had a second-year Jaylen Brown who has yet to break out yet. He didn't have a phenomenal rookie season, right? So he was yet to break out. Marcus Smart, yet to break out. Terry Rozier, we didn't know what we had in him either. So Gordon Hayward was brought over to be the number two. Everyone else was supposed to be role players. What happened is Gordon Hayward got hurt first game of the season, and his injury was so bad, even when he came back the next year, he wasn't 100% ready. He couldn't defend. He didn't trust his leg. It was horrible. But since his college coach, Brad Stevens, was the coach of the Boston Celtics, he already knew that he had that starting spot coming back. So regardless what Brown and Tatum did at the small forward position and the shooting guard position, in the absence of Gordon Hayward, Brown went back to the bench. And then Tatum lost all his shots. Imagine getting 20 shots a game for Tatum and 15 shots a game for Brown. But then Gordon Hayward and Kyrie comes back. So you already know Kyrie getting the 20 shots. So Tatum shots go down to probably 10. And Brown shots go down even lower than that. And then you got Gordon Hayward out there who can't guard a parked car because his leg is all jacked up, getting all of Brown's minutes. And all of them felt like they should be the number two behind Kyrie. Brown, Hayward, Tatum, Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier, the Morris twins, and Al Horford. All of them felt like they was fighting for the number two spot. I want those minutes. I want that title. I want those shots. All of them. And what Kyrie did is had team meetings to try to get those young guys on the same page and let them know we can't win with this type of fighting. So the locker room was jacked up. Kyrie Irving was trying to get it straight. And that's why he called LeBron and said, I see what you was talking about now. This leadership thing is not easy. These young boys want, they want the rock. And they fighting each other for it. And it's messing the team up. Kyrie Irving got blamed for all of that. And he told Boston, because they were saying a whole bunch of stuff about Kyrie Irving in the news and all that stuff. And that's why he was like, look, man, I'm coming back here if y'all will have me. But people was already talking like, oh, man, what's going on with Boston? I like how they look under Tatum's leadership in the playoffs. So all that type of talk was going on. So Kyrie, felt unwanted a little bit and he ended up leaving. But getting back to the superstar thing, yes, he's a superstar. Yes, he has the talent. Yes, he has led a team to success as the number one. He meets my criteria. He's a superstar, right? It's just that simple for my criteria. If you got the talent, obviously, if you've led a team as the number one successfully, you meet my criteria, right? End of story, right? This is the last thing I show y'all because, since we love Steph so much, I want to know when Steph turned into a superstar. Because if you put the side by side up and you're looking at Kyrie on the top, you're looking at Steph on the bottom. And one thing I do know is Steph was good. He could shoot, but not good enough to go and get recruited by some of these big schools, Duke, Carolina, and stuff like that. He was from Carolina. He couldn't get no Duke love or no Carolina love, right? Kyrie's from Jersey. He got some Carolina love. Coach K went and checked on him. He shows up, number one prospect out of high school. So he's been a superstar since high school. A superstar in the making. He goes to Duke. He gets hurt. He only played like 8-9 games. He's so good in those 8-9 games and so unstoppable. He goes number one. Steph didn't go number one. His rookie year, averaged 19 points a game as a 19-year-old, wins rookie of the year. Steph Curry's rookie year, averaged 18 points a game, but he's 21 with 3 or 4 years of college. 21-year-old. And didn't get rookie of the year. Tyreke Evans got it. Right? So picture that. Second year, Kyrie's 20 years old, already an all-star. At 22 in his second year, not an all-star, Steph Curry. His third year, not an all-star. His fourth year, not an all-star. Not until his fifth year did he make all-star. Kyrie Irving was an all-star at 20 years old as a second-year player and was an all-star in his third year, fourth year, and the only reason why he didn't make all-star his fifth year because he only played 53 games. But right after that, all-star again at 24, all-star again at 25 and 26. And then in Brooklyn, when, 2020, of course, the vaccine happened, not an all-star, right? And the rest is history, right? So I'm trying to figure out when Kyrie Irving was never not a superstar. Steph averages about 27 points for his career. Kyrie averages 26 points for his career. They both are 50, 40, 90 guys. What I'm trying to show you is that it's a daggone shame that LeBron fans dislike him so much that they can't even give him credit for being a superstar. LeBron fans hate this man so much they can't even give him credit for being a superstar. I think that is hilarious. Hilarious. And then when Kyrie and Steph met face-to-face, head-to-head in the finals, that game one before Kyrie Irving dislocated his kneecap, Kyrie Irving was killing Steph on both ends of the floor. I couldn't wait for this opportunity to show y'all. And I was rooting against Kyrie. I wanted Steph to I wanted Steph to score 50 on him. Kyrie Irving was eating Steph lunch offensively and defensively. And then he broke his kneecap. They went into overtime. Cleveland was probably about to pull that game out. I remember Steph went to the hole to get the game winner. Kyrie blocked that shot. The game winner that he tried to get going to the hole, he blocked that. He was killing Steph. But he got hurt game one. Came back the next year. They played on Christmas night. Was that? No, that wasn't that year. But he got hurt that game. Then the next year they came back. Kyrie killed Steph again and hit the game winner in his face. Boom, that's done. Then they get Kevin Durant. They play on Christmas Day. Then Kyrie hit the game winner in Clay's face. Like, Kyrie Irving been busting their tail for a long, long time, especially Steph. So if Steph is a superstar, and it took him 5 years to make All-Star, but Kyrie made it as a 20-year-old in his second year, sheesh. It ain't looking too good, man. But yeah, back to that poll. 86% of y'all got common sense. 14% of y'all might be LeBron fans. That's how I see it.